here from What Laura Likes. Now, this is the much asked for homeschool video update. So the book that kind of started it all for me is titled A Little Way of Homeschooling by Susie Ann Andres. I'll link it down below. But in that book are 15 accounts of women who are either 100% unschooling or are kind of having more what I would call a relaxed homeschool, where either they get curriculum and they're really excited about it and then they kind of dump it, or they're just using more of a structured unschooling, I would say. So no matter where you fall in the gamut of homeschooling, or if you're looking into homeschool philosophies, I highly suggest this book because it gives you a sense of peace, if nothing else, because those days where maybe you don't get to any of your structured curricula, you will still know that your children are learning and moving forward, and that in and of itself is such a blessing and comfort as a parent. And this book is specifically Catholic. They're all Catholic families. And you don't hear about Catholic unschooling a lot. It's too bad, because it is actually a legit way of educating your children. The beauty is that when you're unschooling, it's child directed. You're living your life, and the formal schooling, if you want to do it, gets squeezed into life. Life does not get squeezed in around school, and that's my favorite thing. I used to do something where I'm like, okay, morning time we'll do school, and then afternoons playtime. But then I really enjoy running errands in the morning because everything's just quiet and uncrowded, and I tend to get kind of bored and I don't know, kind of lethargic in the afternoon, or at least I used to. And so I was like, I don't want to really run errands during that time of day. I want to be home and be quiet. And so it didn't really work for our rhythm to be constantly trying to squeeze in life around the school. And then I would feel guilty because we wouldn't get our work done. And so when I just kind of stepped back and said, let's just unschool for a while, there was so much peace. And the cool thing is my kids did not stop learning, and they definitely did not stop developing. Chloe, at the beginning of our unschooling period, was struggling at her grade level. From what I know, I don't really know reading grade levels very well, but she wasn't everything chapter books for sure. And I left her alone for 2 months, right? Or I think it was about 2 months. And all of a sudden, now every single chapter book I give her, she's cruising through it. She's understanding the words. I would say she's at grade level, or I wouldn't say she's above grade level, but I would say she's definitely solidly in her grade level now. And I didn't do anything. We're reading through Little House on the Prairie, which is one of the big things we do is read a lot of books out loud. And I had her start the chapter for me. Totally can do it. She probably could read this whole thing on her own. It's just that I really like reading it together as a family, and Neil listens and things like that. So my struggle now is to find her good quality books that are at her reading level, and of course you also want to have some above a reading level, and then maybe a couple under her reading level. That's another conversation. So, and then Neil has just been building. I mean, he just builds. Does he know the sound a P makes? No. If you go ask him what does a P say, he'll be like, I don't know, and he'll list off all these random letter sounds. And then, if you ask him to draw a P or recognize a P, he doesn't know. Does that make me a bad mom or a bad teacher? No, because he's 5, and I know that children develop their reading skills at their own pace, and I don't really worry about him. I know that he's going to be reading at some point. I know that he's going to be a good reader because he's very, very highly verbal. So I would say that my main homeschooling philosophy has to do with talking, which honestly my voice is actually a little raw because we've been talking a lot today already. We just are a talking family. And it's actually in the book, The Little Way of Homeschooling, there's a family just like that. She's like, conversation is our main way of dialoguing about information. And it's so true. The kids and I, we talk about our faith all the time. They ask me questions. We talk about what's going on in the world, current events. We talk about the moon and the sun and the seasons, and I don't know, just science, philosophy, music, religion. I mean, it just all gets talked through, in the natural course of the day based on what kind of presents itself in our lives, whether it's something I have an interest in that day, they have an interest in that day, something we see out in the world, because we definitely don't spend much, like a lot of time at home. They go out in the playground for hours encountering different people, different situations. We talk through that. I would say that our main mode of education in this house is talking. Does that mean that I need to know everything? Of course not, because you have the ways to look it up. But I've just found that like the conversations are so rich that my kids have this really beautiful knowledge. My goal as a homeschooling mom is not to pump my kids full of facts so that they can blur them back out to me. That's not at all my education philosophy. My philosophy is that I want my children at the age 18 or whenever they end up leaving my house to be good moral people. I want them to understand their faith, understand doctrine, understand the whys of the church, and to be good Catholics, to be striving towards sainthood, to understand right and wrong, morality, just laws and unjust laws, what it means to be a martyr, what it means to stand up for their faith, what it means to be a kind person, to be able to list off the acts of mercy, to be able to, to have in their back pocket the rosary, the chaplet, all the prayers that we spent their childhood praying. And that is the education I want them to have. That's my main goal. That's my main philosophy. That's the philosophy I've always had. My kids know their faith. They love their faith. They go to daily mass with me. They go to adoration with me. They see me going to confession often. They see me and my husband acting out our faith and filling our home with images. Chloe is constantly creating art that is religious based, that's based on our faith. And that to me is so important, and it surpasses anything I could get out of a textbook. So a couple more things that I just kind of want to say in this video itself. As a student, I always worked toward the grade, or another way to say it is that I played the game. And I remember when I met Ryan, he was like a C student at best, and I was like an A student. And I was always like, even in college, I'd be like, why are you struggling so hard? Just play the game. Look at the grading rubric and write a paper. And he's like, yeah, but I don't agree with how we're writing this, or I don't understand the why, or I don't want to fall within these rubrics. I want to write a different kind of paper. And I was just like, you're making it so hard. Just follow the rubric, get the A, and move on. So as much as people would say, oh yeah, Laura, she's a good student, I didn't actually, one, retain much of anything, and two, I definitely didn't spend my years in school honing myself, developing my personhood, growing in virtue. I just didn't learn to think and question and ponder and mull over and all the things that great philosophers do. I didn't do it. I didn't read great philosophy. I didn't know that there were church fathers to read. I didn't even read the Bible. It's amazing what I lacked because I was just so focused on getting the grade. And so I think that might be where the pushback comes from, in terms of allowing my kids to have the other side of that and to really learn naturally. Okay, so I'm running out of time. One last thing, I'm going to put a bunch of information down in the description. I want you guys to check out these books, check out these podcasts, check out these websites. I just got this book. This is one of the poetry book that's recommended from Mothers of Divine Grace. I'm going to put down a link to a video called Nurturing Competent Communicators by the people at IAW. I highly, highly, highly recommend that every single parent listen to it. It's an hour and 20 minutes, but please trust me, it is worth every second. He talks about 1, reading to your kids until they're 18, and 2, doing poetry memorization. This book is great. I'm still probably going to buy his program, but this is put together by a Catholic mom who homeschools, and it starts out and you just have poems to memorize, and she kind of talks about how to do it, but really it's just repetition. There's such an important neurological connections that come from 1, exposing your children to good language. You can't expect your children to be good writers unless they have good language inside their heads, right? And second of all, poetry memorization. what it does to the brain is just phenomenal, and everyone, it's so sad that it has fallen so far out of favor. And I think when I was a kid, I memorized one poem or two poems. I had an advanced English class in high school where we finally started doing poetry memorization, and I really loved it. It just works your brain in a different way. So in the comments, please put down below what you want to see from me about homeschooling. This is just like the homeschool philosophy video that I was trying to get out. I know that I didn't talk specifically about curriculum. I have other videos about that, and I am going to do a curriculum update video as soon as I can, but I wanted to get this one out first so that you guys kind of knew where I was coming from when I start talking about like what I plan on doing starting in the fall, and like what we're kind of doing now. So I know that some of you want me to do like a play-by-play, what we do in a day. I will do that video for you. Again, just let me know in the comments that that's what you want. And I hope this was helpful. Please tell me if this was helpful, because I want to put content out there for you guys that helps you. I just wanted this to be a big hug from me to you, that no matter how you're doing your homeschool, you're doing it the right way for your family. So never think that you're not enough. Never think that God didn't know what he was doing when he matched those little souls with yours. And I just pray that everyone has a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.